Thank you all for being here. Thanks to the folks at Union Station for again accommodating us. And I want to say a particular thanks to Jennifer Homendy, recently reconfirmed for the NTSB. Very proud of her as a Connecticut native and as a tireless advocate of rail safety at the federal level. And we're joined by Jim Gilday and State Senator Wong and Congresswoman Delora's office. Thank you, Lou, for joining us. We're here on the 50th anniversary of one of the most devastating train crashes in Connecticut's history. 50 years ago today, 4 people perished, 43 people were injured as a result of a crash in Darien. The first identified crash that could have been prevented by the technology of positive train control. Just so everybody understands what we mean by positive train control, it is a communications apparatus that enables trains to be slowed or stopped automatically before they go too fast or they collide with another train. Technology that has been around for decades, literally, and could have prevented at least 150 more crashes, killing hundreds of people and injuring thousands since that Darien crash. In the wake of one of those devastating crashes that killed 25 people in California, the United States Congress in 2009 passed legislation that required positive train control to be implemented by 2015 across the United States. Here we are in 2019. Only 4 of those railroads, 42 of them are covered, only 4 have achieved positive train control. Metro North is not, repeat, not one of them. Amtrak has implemented it on many of its lines in the Northeast Corridor. But the reason, in part, is Congress giving delays to the rail industry. I fought them, but they happen. And so now the deadline is the end of 2020. It was supposed to be 2015, then it was delayed to 2018, and with the proviso that it could go until 2020. What is the likelihood that positive train control will be implemented by the end of 2020? The question right now has no answer. We don't know. What we do know is that it is achievable. We need to get the job done. It must be implemented because it can save lives. We know it can save lives from the history of train travel and incidents like Spuyten Duyvil, where people were killed, Philadelphia, where a train crash could have been prevented, others around the country, and in Connecticut. Positive train control is a national mandate that we are capable of achieving if we simply invest the effort and the resources. 50 years ago, we put a man on the moon. 50 years ago, people were killed in a train crash that could have been prevented by positive train control, and we still have not achieved it. And that is disgraceful. Let me say a word about Metro North. Metro North operates on one of the busiest rail corridors in the United States, and it serves a tremendous function in this state. At the beginning of this year, only 3% of Metro North tracks were even tested, and right now they are undergoing testing for maybe 10%. So the point here is Metro North has a long way to go before it will reach positive train control. And it has a short time to do it. It needs to devote more attention, more resources, more energy to achieving positive train control. It has just bought a fleet of new trains from New Jersey that may have difficulty becoming interoperable. So there are difficult obstacles ahead for Metro North. With the will and the wherewithal, positive train control can be achieved by Metro North. But I'm here to demand that Metro North do more, do it more effectively and better, so that it will meet the 2020 deadline. If these railroads fail to meet the deadline, they can be fined. They can be penalized monetarily. But that burden then simply falls on the passengers and the users who may be charged more. We need good management to prevent the fines and financial penalties. And if they fail to meet that deadline, the people who deserve the burden are the management of those railroads. They ought to be given walking papers if they fail to meet the deadline after all of these delays and postponements given by Congress. And so I think we have a real national challenge. To repeat, only 4 of the 42 railroads nationally have done their job. Metro North and all of those national railroads need to do the job, get it done. The technology is there. All that's needed is the will and wherewithal. And lives can be saved. Lives will be at risk as long as Metro North and other railroads fail to do their job. So with that, let me turn it over to Jennifer Homendy of the NTSB, who is from Connecticut and who has been a real advocate of positive train control, former staff member in the Congress, and now a very active and energetic member of the National Transportation Safety Board. Thanks for being here, Jennifer.
Thank you, Senator Blumenthal, and thank you so much for your strong leadership on PTC and all the other transportation safety issues you've just really championed over the years. So thank you. And again, my name is Jennifer Homendy. I'm a board member with the National Transportation Safety Board. Yesterday, I had the opportunity to visit with Metro North, Long Island Railroad, and the Metropolitan Transportation Authority to see firsthand their progress toward implementing PTC. Tomorrow, I'll visit New Jersey Transit as I make my way around the country over the next 16 months to deliver one message to each of the 41 railroads that are required to implement PTC. Finish the job. Exactly 50 years ago today, on August 20th, 1969, 2 Penn Central commuter trains collided in Darien, Connecticut. 4 people died and 43 others were injured. The NTSB issued its first recommendation related to PTC as a result of that crash. In the past half century, the NTSB has investigated more than 150 PTC preventable accidents that took the lives of more than 300 people and injured 6,700 others, which is why PTC was on the NTSB's first most wanted list in 1990 and why it remains on our most wanted list today. My goal is for the NTSB to never have to investigate another accident that could have been prevented had PTC been fully implemented. In 2008, when it became clear that even after a series of deadly crashes, the railroads and federal regulators weren't going to voluntarily implement PTC, Congress took action and mandated that PTC implementation be mandatory. Unfortunately, progress has been slow over the past 11 years, and the railroads have experienced delays. Progress is being made, and we're thankful for that. In fact, some railroads, 4, are fully implemented, others are close. However, others lag far behind and need to kick it up a notch. 2 railroads, it used to be 43 were required to implement PTC. 2 have been fully exempted from the PTC requirements by the Federal Railroad Administration. Some railroads are still installing equipment and conducting field testing when they should be well into revenue service demonstration on all their lines. At this point, the railroad should be focused on interoperability and getting their safety plans to FRA for review and approval and final certification. That's not to suggest that there haven't been challenges along the way, but we're 16 months out from the final deadline. The railroads and state agencies need to finish the job. There should be no more extensions, no more excuses, and no more delays. I've said this many times, and the senator referenced it. From the day that President Kennedy urged Congress and America to undertake an ambitious challenge of going to the moon, to the day that Neil Armstrong took that historic first step, it was 8 short years. 8 years. From the day that Congress mandated PTC to now, it's been 11. From the collision in Darien to today, it's been 50 years. It's been far too long, and the railroads need to finish the job. It goes without saying that PTC implementation is far from the only challenge that railroads face. The NTSB continues to fight for railroad safety on a number of fronts, but today is about remembering Darien. And there is no better way to put that memory into action than to fully implement PTC. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Jim Gilday. I'm chairman of the Connecticut Commuter Rail Council. I too would like to thank the senator for certainly the important action of emphasizing PTC for so many issues that affect rail commuters, whether it be the cross-honoring of tickets on the Shoreline East or helping the Waterbury branch with scheduling issues. He has been a tireless advocate for commuters and rail commuters. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I appreciate the opportunity to speak here today on this very important topic of positive train control. As a father and a husband and a rail commuter, I can tell you that our most basic need is the safety of our trip and ensuring that we return home to our loved ones safely and without any safety issues. This most basic need supersedes the speed of our trip, how good the equipment looks, or the amenities we are offered. There is nothing more important than our safety. Positive train control is a game changer in the rail safety arena, and it is an absolute necessary safety system that is well long overdue. Today, on the 50th anniversary of the Darien crash, it is the perfect day to urge Metro North to ensure that they take the appropriate steps to finally carry the ball forward and close this project out without any further delays or extensions. And finally, I cannot stress enough that positive train control cannot be considered complete until it is installed and operational on all lines, in all branches. And as such, I urge Metro North to ensure that they take the steps necessary to complete positive train control on the Waterbury branch and not seek to delay or extend this work any further simply because it's more complicated. Thank you very much for your time and your attention. And again, thank you, Senator.
Thank you.
Morning, everyone. Lou Mangini, Congresswoman Rosa DeLaura's office. Senator, thank you for your efforts on this on the federal level. Senator, thank you for your efforts on this on the state level. Jim, thank you for your advocacy. Jennifer, thank you for your service to the NTSB. I have a statement here from the Congresswoman who unfortunately could not attend. 50 years ago, the unthinkable happened in Darien when 5 passengers were killed and 35 injured in a head-on collision of 2 passenger trains. Connecticut commuters deserve to have confidence in their rail system. We should take every precaution to prevent rail accidents like the Darien train wreck from happening. Positive train control technology could have saved those lives and the more than 300 people who have died in train wrecks since, including the Metro North crash in 2013 where another 4 lives were lost. I was proud to secure a provision into law that required the FRA to report to Congress on its implementation of positive train control across the country, and was pleased to learn that at least installation was completed in Connecticut last year with funding I helped secure to do. We must continue to hold train safety in the highest regard, and our first responsibility for our train systems has to be ensuring the public safety. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Blumenthal, for holding this event. I am State Senator Tony Huang. I sit on the state's Transportation Committee, but I'm also a spouse of a Metro North Rail commuter. This issue of positive train control is one of public safety. Nothing else matters. The idea of getting loved ones to work and back home is of a paramount concern. But unfortunately, this has taken far too long. 50 years since the Darien incident, and many years since federal legislation has been enacted to implement, not just make a installation. It is important to note, it is installation that is done right now, but it has not been implemented. So it is not in place, PTC, in our Metro North lines to save lives. So one of the things I share in the state delegation that we have undertaken is the fact that now we are requiring, per statute passed this past summer, that we are requiring quarterly reports from Metro North to the Department of Transportation to update the legislature, just as Representative DeLauro has done on the federal level, to make us aware of how far we have got to go and how far behind we truly are. Because at the end of the day, it's accountability, it's transparency, and ultimately, again, it is about public safety. And right now, our rail commuters coming from this station and any of the stations, not just simply the Metro North line of the Hudson line, but the extended lines of Shoreline East, the Waterbury lines, they all, every single commuter deserves that prospect of safety to and from their work. This cannot wait. And I want to thank Senator Blumenthal. I want to thank the NTSB for voicing this concern over and over again, and I hope we can make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to emphasize 2 points that Senator Wong just raised. Number one, this cause is bipartisan. It is in the Congress bipartisan. In our state, it is. Rail safety must be bipartisan, and we've come to an agreement. All that stands between us and positive train control is the will and determination to get the job done by the railroads. Number two, for the cynics, and there are always cynics who may say, aren't you exaggerating the safety issue? First of all, there's no exaggerating the loss of life, but the economics are also compelling here. Every time there's a crash, whenever the tracks are shut down, the costs are in the tens and hundreds of millions of dollars. Removing a train crash is nowhere near as simple as taking cars off the road after there is a car crash. It ties up the rails for weeks and slows them down for months, and the rail corridors are crippled. So are commerce and commuting, and people know it because of the difficulty of getting to work. All you have to do is listen to the radio about the commuting times in the metropolitan area or the New Haven rail to know that a rail incident slowing down rail traffic backs up for hours, sometimes days. So one of these crashes has enormous economic implications. It's well worth the investment in dollars and cents, even if you are going to be cynical about the public safety issue. So happy to take questions. Mary? I'm sorry. Well, yeah, great question. Without going into too many of the technical details, as of the beginning of 2019, they had done the inspection implementation on about 3% of the Metro North tracks. They have begun now doing that work on 35 miles of the Darien tracks. Once they complete it, it will amount to 10% of the total number of tracks. Using the present pace of work, meeting that 2020 deadline is just going to be impossible. They need to accelerate the pace of work in implementing positive train control by Metro North. There's no getting around the lagging pace right now on Metro North. We think the job can be done. It must be done. There are a lot of other challenges, as Jim mentioned, on-time performance, cost effectiveness. There are other issues that they need to address as well, but positive train control is a matter of basic safety, and they can do it if they simply pay enough attention. Well, it may be less than 30%. They have begun the next 10% after 3%, and there's no knowing when they're going to accomplish even that 10%. They've just begun that additional 10% work, and they have between now and the end of 2020. So the specter of failure is very real. That's why we're here, to demand action. Not to be unduly critical, although there's room for criticism, but simply to say, get the job done. I'll let anyone else.
I'd love to add to that if you don't mind. So the law on the extension required certain things from the railroads. The law required that that equipment be installed on locomotives, number one, that wayside infrastructure be completed, employees be trained, and that either one line for the commuter railroads or 50% of the lines for freight railroads would be in revenue service demonstration. That's sort of their demonstration and testing phase. And that's really where the 3% comes in. So I looked at, for Metro North's numbers, they have about 384 miles that are required to be, where positive train control is required to be implemented. They're doing some field testing in certain areas along the different routes on about 34 miles, and their last report, as you mentioned, was about 10 miles for revenue service demonstration. But, we're 16 months out. And so at this point, revenue service demonstration should have been done on all the lines, and the only question should be, are you interoperable with all the other railroads that are operating on your lines, and have you submitted, gotten certified, and approved from the FRA for your safety certification plan? That's where we should be at this stage. So overall, most of the railroads are not at that stage.
And we can get you the transcript. I've specifically asked publicly the head of the FRA, the Federal Railway Administration, who has responsibility for enforcing this law, to report to me, and they did so a matter of days ago, providing this update. We're going to be demanding more reports with increasing frequency, because there's no reason that they can't do this job. And as I mentioned, they just bought a fleet of cars from the New Jersey Railroad, which itself is way behind on interoperability, which does not augur well for their implementation of this system. And we're not talking about a simple, costless system. It has complexities, but they are achievable now. They were achievable a decade or more ago, and there have been frequent extensions. There is no excuse for delay, no more extensions, no delay. There's just no reason for it, as has been said so well here by Jennifer and others.
Why do you think there are excuses being made and a lack of urgency by the train lines to not implement it?
Well, without meaning any disrespect to the leaders of our rail industry, I think they've just failed to see it as a priority. It costs money, it takes resources, they want to spend the money elsewhere, or they want to take higher profits. They've simply failed to give it the priority that it needs in light of the potential for loss of human life. And by the way, again, coming back to the economic issue, you know, a lot of our rail traffic is freight. And when a freight train has a crash because it's going too fast, or because it should have slowed down, or because it collides with another, it can pose an extraordinary environmental hazard and damage. So loss of life is not the only measure of safety here. You've seen the spills and other catastrophes that have occurred, but the rail industry has simply failed to give it the priority in commuting and in freight. Okay, thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jim, thank